You are listening to Buddha's Healing, where we contemplate the Buddha's teachings together to live peacefully amidst the everyday world. The flow of samsara and the winding turns of human existence. Dear listeners, human life is like a long, endlessly flowing river. There are tranquil and peaceful stretches where the crystal clear water reflects the clouds and sky. But there are also winding turns full of rapids, where turbulent waves obscure our entire view. In that downstream journey, have you ever suddenly paused amidst the bustling stream of life, carrying a profound sense of bewilderment as misfortunes continuously strike? There are times when we feel we have lived very kindly, tried our absolute best, and gathered every bit of goodness to give away. Yet what we receive in return is nothing but bitterness, sorrow, betrayal, loss, or illness. In those moments, looking up at the vast sky, a deeply frustrated question often echoes in our minds. Why me? Why is heaven so unfair? Dear listeners, that cry of grievance is the echo of suffering that has been suppressed for too long. It is the weeping of a living being struggling in the net of samsara, yet to find a way out. But if you take a moment to quiet your mind and settle your heart a little deeper, you will realize that this universe inherently holds no injustice or punishment. The sky remains vast enough to embrace all beings, and the earth remains gentle enough to support every footstep. Every operation in this world follows an invisible, yet perfectly precise law down to the very millisecond. The law of karma, cause and effect. Today, we sit here together, quiet and relaxed, to look deeply into the topic. 3 signs that karma is catching up with you. Let go now before you suffer. This teaching is not meant to threaten, nor is it to sow fear, but rather to light a bright torch, illuminating the dark corners of the soul, helping you clearly recognize the true nature of the adversities you are facing, and from there, finding the path of liberation, transforming pain into peaceful equanimity. Why we must thoroughly understand the truth of karma. Dear listeners, why is this topic so crucial and worth discussing? Because the root of almost all suffering in this world stems from a lack of understanding, or what Buddhism calls ignorance avijja. When facing suffering, human beings' instinctual reaction is to fight back, run away, or cast blame. Many of us carry a common misconception, always believing we are the victims of circumstances, the victims of others, or the victims of a predestined fate. When a career collapses, we blame deceitful partners and harsh markets. When a family is in turmoil, we complain about an ununderstanding spouse and blame our thoughtless children. When illness visits, we bemoan our fate and resent the cruel world. That act of blaming is like being thirsty but drinking mouthfuls of bitter seawater. The more we blame, the more our hearts churn, and the higher our resentment rises. Do you notice that when we immerse ourselves in resentment, our mind becomes a suffocating battlefield? We imprison ourselves in the jail of anger, only for that very resentment to continue sowing toxic seeds, creating even heavier karmic consequences for the future. Failing to understand the root of karmic retribution causes humans to wander in a vicious cycle, encountering bad fruit, complaining, and feeling anger, creating new bad karma, reaping even worse fruit. That circle endlessly tightens around human life, making breaths heavier, eyes losing their clarity, and smiles withering away. Therefore, clearly understanding karma and recognizing the signs when retribution is ripening is the golden key to severing the painful cycle of samsara right in the present moment. Only when you see through this truth can you stop sowing unwholesome seeds, Begin the process of purifying your inner mind and pave the way for good conditions to blossom, enlightening awareness from the teachings of the Awakened One. Going back in time, from over 2,500 years ago, the great teacher left humanity with priceless teachings. Shining as brightly as the sun breaking through the fog of ignorance, the Buddha taught that, as human beings, no one can escape their own shadow, the actions through body, speech, and mind meaning what we do. What we say and what we think are all seeds sown into the field of consciousness. We are the owners of our karma, heirs to our karma. Karma is the womb from which we are born. Karma is our companion, and karma is the only refuge for every living being. How profound and thorough that teaching is. Imagine a farmer planting chili seeds in the soil. Even if he prays day and night for the plant to bear sweet oranges, when the tree grows, the fruit it bears will still have a burning, spicy taste. Karma is the same. It is a natural, objective, and absolutely fair law. No supernatural force can grant blessings or bring disaster upon us, except for the very seeds we ourselves have planted from beginningless time until now. There are karmic fruits that ripen right in this present life, known as immediately effective karma. There are karmic fruits that wait until the next life, or countless lifetimes later, when conditions are sufficient to bear fruit, known as successively effective karma. Human physical eyes are often limited by the short space and time of a single lifetime. We only see the tip of the iceberg. We see someone committing evil yet living in luxury, and we hastily complain that heaven has no eyes. We see ourselves living kindly yet encountering disasters, and we immediately assume karma is a lie. But dear listeners, a seed under the earth needs time. It needs light, water, and appropriate moisture to sprout. Karmic retribution also needs time and sufficient conditions. When the conditions are fully met, even if you hide in a deep cave, dive to the bottom of the ocean, or fly into the sky, karma will still find you, as precisely as a shadow follows a form, as an echo responds to a sound in a mountain cave. Letting go to transform the art of living peacefully amidst adversity. When karma finds us, it often wears a disguise in the form of troubles, sorrows, illnesses, or betrayals. Many people, when facing these things, often fall into a state of panic, fear, or cling to an illusory hope that the situation will just disappear. However, the attitude of resisting the unfolding truth is exactly the cause that multiplies the suffering. The Buddha called this the phenomenon of being struck by two arrows. The first arrow is the physical pain, or the unsatisfactory event that occurs that is the ripening karma. We cannot avoid it, but the second arrow is shot directly into our own minds by our own anger, anxiety, and resentment. This second pain is often much deeper and more persistent than the first. So how do we pull the second arrow out of our soul? The key lies in two words: letting go. Letting go is not giving up. It is not letting life drift aimlessly, nor is it a cowardly attitude of escaping reality. Letting go, in the spirit of the awakened path, is an ultimate act of courage. It is the courage to look straight into the unfolding truth, smiling and accepting that, this is my karma. An old seed I once sowed has now blossomed. It comes to settle an old debt. And when it blossoms, it means the debt is being cleared. Dear listeners, when you recognize karma catching up with you, resistance only blocks the flow of energy, making the karmic force wrap even tighter. It's like a person falling into a swamp. The more they struggle, the deeper they sink. On the contrary, if you relax, keep a pure mind, and mindfully acknowledge the event without adding anger or complaint. That is the exact moment you are transforming your karma. Acceptance is the first step to letting go, when the mind is no longer attached to the suffering ego. No longer blaming those who caused the harm, understanding that they are merely a condition for your karma to be executed, your mind will become boundlessly vast. In the next part of this sharing, we will dive deeply into identifying each specific sign. These are the three clearest signals from the universe, from the law of cause and effect, indicating that residual karma is ripening. Once you understand these three signs, you will no longer be surprised, no longer panicked. Instead, you will know how to equip yourself with the armor of mindfulness. Use compassion to soothe wounds. Use selflessness to resolve karmic debts, and use letting go to truly cut off the roots of suffering. Returning to your soul a peaceful, light serenity like clouds strolling across the empty sky. Please keep your heart completely still. Relax your shoulders, take a deep breath in and exhale gently. Ready to step into the space of self-reflection and awakening in the following teachings. The first sign. All efforts suddenly collapse. Dear listeners, in the bustling journey amidst the stream of life, please try to sit in stillness and reflect. Have you ever fallen into such an ironic situation? You embark on a job, a project, or nurture a relationship with all your sincerity and goodwill. You pour your heart into it, sparing every moment, exhausting all your mental and financial resources. Every preparation, every step is carefully calculated, and success seems safely held in the palm of your hand. Yet, at the very last minute, an unforeseen incident falls from the sky. A mistake that you did not cause, an unreasonable external impact, or someone suddenly changing their heart, destroys all that effort in the blink of an eye. At that moment, a feeling of deep disappointment and choking resentment rises to your throat. You watch your achievements vanish into thin air and bitterly ask yourself, why do I make an honest living? Try my best and harm no one, yet heaven cuts off my path to survival. Why do others put in little effort but gain real success, while I struggle only to end up empty-handed? This heartbreaking paradox, this incredibly common psychology of resentment, is actually the first door revealing to us the silent, subtle, yet tremendously powerful operation of karma. When all righteous efforts suddenly collapse for no logical reason, it is not bad luck, but the clearest sign that karmic retribution is knocking at your door. In the teachings of awakening, the great teacher once reminded sentient beings of an eternal truth regarding the operation of mind and karma. That mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are mind-made. If with an impure mind a person speaks or acts, suffering follows them like the wheel that follows the foot of the ox. This teaching, though simple, contains the complete law of the universe. There is no collapse that is random, nor is there any loss without cause. All the sudden obstacles blocking our path in the present are, in truth, the wheel of karmic force rolling forward, crushing the unwholesome seeds we intentionally or unintentionally sowed in past lifetimes. If you observe closely, you will see the image of an ancient ox cart moving heavily on a dirt road. The ox walks in front, the wooden wheel grinds behind. The ox turns left, the wheel turns left. The ox steps through a muddy puddle, the wheel must also roll through that very puddle. It is impossible for the ox to go one way, while the wheel rolls another. Our karmic retribution follows us closely and precisely in the exact same manner. Bankrupt plans, denied efforts, or long accumulated wealth suddenly taking flight are signs signaling that a debt from the past has reached its due date. Perhaps in a distant past life, or even in the past of this very life, when our minds were obscured by the dark clouds of greed, jealousy, or selfishness, we once stood in someone else's way. We shattered someone's hopes or carelessly stripped away the fruits of labor they had sweated and bled to build. Over time, we may have completely forgotten those actions. Human memory is inherently shallow and tends to cover up our own faults. But the law of cause and effect never forgets. The universe is like a giant, impartial, and profoundly fair ledger, recording even the most fragile thoughts. Now, as conditions fully converge, that bad seed sprouts and bears fruit. It manifests as the sudden obstacles and tragic failures in the present, forcing us to fully and precisely taste the feelings of helplessness and loss we once inflicted on other beings. In the spirit of the awakened path, when facing this sign, the ordinary reaction of sentient beings is to frantically fight back and harbor hatred. We blame faithless partners, blame incompetent employees, blame the ungrateful world. We rage to find ways to retaliate, to sue. Or we withdraw into a state of collapse, tormenting ourselves. But dear listeners, if we look deeply through the lens of mindfulness, this collapse is actually a bitter medicine that cures the disease, a wonderful opportunity for purification. It is like the sweating fever of a sick person. The fever makes us exhausted, but it is a sign that the body is eliminating toxins. When karmic retribution manifests, it is the moment karmic obstacles are being eradicated. The debt is being crossed out in the ledger of karmic forces. If we do not understand, and we react with anger and enmity, it means we are refusing to pay the debt, and what is more, picking a fight with the creditor. The old karma has not passed, yet new karma is piled up. Imagine you are holding a glowing red-hot coal in your hand. The tighter you grasp it, the deeper it burns your flesh to the bone. The only way to end the pain is to open your hand and let it go. Letting go here means letting go of the attachment to a perfect outcome. Letting go of the arrogant desire for everything to happen exactly your way, the very moment everything collapses before your eyes. Instead of screaming and blaming heaven and earth, please close your eyes, take a deep breath, and gently tell yourself, when conditions are sufficient, things come together. When conditions run out, they fall apart. This is my karmic fruit. Now that it is ripe, I accept it. Let me pay off this debt so that my heart may be light from now on. Accepting the loss. Forgiving those who seem to be the saboteurs, because they are merely messengers bringing the karmic message to you, is exactly how you drop that hot coal to the ground. Only when you can let go of the resentment and clear the bitterness in your heart will you have enough tranquility to look back at the aftermath, draw profound lessons, and continue on a new journey with a pure, unhurried mind, no longer carrying the heavy burden of grievances from the past. To help you more fully empathize with the intricate operation of this profound truth, please relax your mind, quiet your heart, and travel back in time with me to the era when the Buddha was still in the world. The story of the bitter tears and the karmic debt from a past life. At that time, in the prosperous capital of Savatthi, there was a merchant named Sakata. Unlike the cunning traders in the marketplace, Sakata was famous throughout the region as a hardworking, honest man who deeply valued integrity. For more than half his life, he saved every single penny, building his wealth through arduous drops of salty sweat. As the years went by, Sakata accumulated a large amount of capital, almost his entire life's fortune. He decided to invest all this wealth into a crucial trading expedition to the distant kingdom of Magadha. For this journey, he carefully selected the finest silks, brocades, and the rarest agar wood and spices. Accompanying him on this life-or-death journey was Divatissa, his sworn brother who had been through thick and thin with him. A man Sakata trusted even more than himself. The merchant caravan overcame countless hardships, crossing scorching deserts and traversing deep, treacherous forests haunted by wild beasts and bandits. Sakata swallowed all the exhaustion, holding onto a fierce belief that once they reached the capital city of Rajagaha, these goods would bring him an enormous fortune, enough for his family and descendants to live in prosperity for 3 generations. However, the force of karma is inherently impermanent and always lurks at the most unexpected crossroads. Just as the caravan set foot on the outskirts of Rajagaha, only a day's journey away from the city gates and the wealthy merchants waiting for them, Sakata suddenly fell severely ill. Jungle fever struck, leaving him delirious and unconscious for 3 days and 3 nights, before falling into a coma. He used his last ounce of strength to tightly grasp Divatissa's hand, entrusting all his documents, warehouse keys, and tokens to his close brother, instructing him to carry out the trade in his stead. When Sakata woke up, his body completely exhausted, he looked around and saw only a cold, empty room. There was no neighing of horses, no bustling noise of porters. He dragged his feet outside and asked the innkeeper, only to receive a devastating blow. Divatissa had sold every last piece of the precious goods for a massive sum. And that very night, his sworn brother took all the gold and silver, rode off on the best horse, and vanished without leaving a single trace. Please try to imagine Sakata's ultimate agony at that exact moment. His entire life's work vanished into thin air, but the financial loss seemed like nothing compared to the pain of betrayal. The honest merchant's heart felt as though it was pierced by 10,000 knives. He screamed and cried pitifully in the middle of the strange market. Fury flared up, burning his inner being. He looked up to the sky, cursing the injustice of the Creator, while grinding his teeth and swearing a toxic oath to track down Divatissa, tear him apart, and avenge this bone-deep hatred. Carrying an emaciated body and a bleeding heart full of hatred, Sakata dragged his feet back home, along the way utterly exhausted and desperate. He wandered into the tranquil forest of the Jetavana monastery, under the cooling shade of a bodhi tree. Venerable Sariputta was sitting in meditation, as still and peaceful as a majestic mountain amidst heaven and earth. That profound peace stood in stark contrast to the howling storm within Sakata's heart. Unable to control himself, he collapsed at the Venerable's feet, sobbing uncontrollably and pouring out his grievances. "Venerable Sir, why is life so blind? My whole life I have lived uprightly, never cheating anyone out of a single coin, valuing love and righteousness. Yet the one I trusted the most robbed me of my life's work, pushing me into a state of utter ruin. If karma is real, why does the evil one roam free with gold and silver, while an honest man like me has to suffer this tragic end? I cannot accept this. I hate him to the very marrow of my bones." Venerable Sariputta compassionately opened his eyes of deep insight. Piercing through the dark and tormented mind of the pitiful man, he spoke gently, his warm voice pouring like sweet dew into the burning heart. "O faithful follower, your tears of resentment today and that massive fortune stolen from you are in truth not an injustice. It is merely the time when an old debt has reached its maturity, and you are simply forced to repay it in full. Sakata was stunned, his bloodshot eyes wide open. An old debt. When did I ever owe him? In this life, I have only bestowed favors upon him. I never borrowed a single word from him. Venerable Sariputta gently shook his head and spoke thoughtfully. You are only seeing the cause and effect within a short segment of this life, like looking at the sky through a narrow keyhole. Let me show you the whole truth. In a distant past life, you were a powerful official in charge of land deeds. Divatissa at that time was a poor old farmer who had saved a small pouch of silver his entire life, bringing it to you to secure the deed for a small plot of land for his old age. Back then, greed clouded your reason. You took the old man's silver but swapped the documents, pushing him off his own land, leaving him empty-handed with nowhere to go. Suppressed by injustice and outrage, the old man fell ill from sorrow and died in extreme poverty and ultimate resentment. Pausing a beat for Sakata to absorb the words, the Venerable continued, "The evil seed you sowed that day, having passed through many cycles of samsara, has today gathered enough conditions to sprout. The fact that Divatissa deceived you, took all your wealth and ran away, is nothing but the inevitable operation of karmic force, returning to claim that pouch of silver from years ago, along with the accumulated interest of time and suffering. The one who betrayed you today is the very person you drove to death in the past. If you continue to nourish hatred and seek revenge, this debt will never end. You pay, then he demands. He demands, then you pay again, an endless cycle of vengeance from time without beginning to time without end." Every word from the Venerable was like a thunderbolt tearing through the dark night of ignorance in Sakata's mind. He was shocked to realize that the shell of the pitiful victim he was wrapping himself in was, in fact, merely an illusion. The bone-piercing pain he was enduring right now was exactly the shattering pain he had heartlessly inflicted on another being. Cold sweat broke out. Sakata bowed deeply, and his tears of resentment turned into tears of repentance, flowing endlessly. At that moment, a miracle of mental transformation took place. The 1,000-pound weight of frustration that had clung to him over the long journey suddenly shattered. He clasped his hands, bowing in gratitude to the Venerable, whispering between sobs, "Now I understand. Let the old debt be fully paid. From now on, my heart vows not to cling, not to harbor another word of resentment." Sakata stood up and walked out of the forest. He was still empty-handed, but his steps were now light and serene, like a man who had just cast off a boulder that had weighed heavily on his back for 10,000 lifetimes. The lesson of awakening, letting go to end the vicious cycle. Dear listeners, the story of the merchant Sakata is not just an ancient tale to hear and then forget. It is the reflective image of the lives of so many of us, amidst the whirlpool of daily livelihood. How many times have we fallen into a similar situation, turned away by a longtime friend, ousted from a passionate contract by a partner, or suddenly losing things we have cherished and guarded with our very lives? In those moments, the rising of anger is an understandable reaction of the ordinary human mind. We want to reclaim justice. We want the one who caused our suffering to pay the price. But dear listeners, the law of cause and effect is inherently the absolute justice of the universe. When a collapse strikes, it is not the universe punishing you, but the universe giving you a chance to settle your own invoice of karmic debts. The greatest awakening of a human being is realizing that all phenomena arise from conditions and also cease due to conditions. The person who comes to deceive us, to destroy our achievements, seen at a much deeper level, is actually our karmic creditor coming to help us resolve our karma. If we hold onto grudges and anger, we are continuing to take out a new loan of hatred and delusion. The old debt has not passed, yet a new karma is sown. And the dark wheel of samsara will continue to turn, crushing the peace of our next lives. There is only one way to block this tragic loop, and that is through letting go. Letting go does not mean cowardly enduring. It is a brave and profoundly wise attitude. It is the moment you dare to face the loss and tell yourself, all efforts have collapsed, the conditions have dried up. The debt is paid. I smile and accept it so that from now on, my soul may be free. When you are no longer attached to the outcome, no longer blaming circumstances or people. That is the exact moment you cut with your own hands the rope binding you to the prison of birth and death. Please remember, lost money can be earned again. A ruined career can be rebuilt from scratch. But a soul drowning in resentment will forever lose the light of peace. When karmic retribution arrives and manifests as a sudden collapse, regard it as the natural impermanence of heaven and earth, receiving it with a calm, tolerant, and compassionate mind. You will find that sometimes, being completely empty-handed is the very beginning of a boundless inner wealth.